The Republican Party surely still doesn't have plenty of closeted homosexual men who regularly sexually assault their fucking male staffers. He just keeps trying to like bury it, and it gets unburied every time. This is the anti-gay senator that we were talking about before, the one who was tapping his foot and tried to suck a dude off at the airport. But some of you are about to suck off a top-of-the-hour ad break.
It was yesterday, one case. I was fresh on the force with a thin mustache and a thinner wallet. But even back then, I had a sharp nose for hot leads.
This is friend of the show, Vince Vintage, by the way. How an anti-gay senator was caught sleeping with 94 men.
I was assigned to go undercover in the men's restroom at the Minneapolis airport. The rookies at airport security called me in. The professional did reports of certain men turning tricks with one another, if you're catching my drift. There was a pervert out there, and it was my job to find him. After staking out the bathroom stall, I'd managed to get my first bite, a United States Senator, Larry Craig. I could see a slender face staring at me through the gap in the door. I was stunned to my core. For minutes, he would fidget with his hands and then pop back up to look through the crack with those piercing blue eyes. And in that moment, I couldn't help but wonder, wasn't Craig a Republican senator from Idaho? Didn't he sit on the board of the NRA? Was he about to tango with an undercover officer? Soon enough, I had my answer. Craig entered the stall next to me and placed his bag up against the front of the door. Interesting. For my time cleaning up these streets, he had done this to give himself a bit of extra privacy for what he was about to do next. As I waited, I could see Craig's shoes, his pants, and got a waft of his cheap CVS cologne. And then bingo. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Foot tapping, that's the signal for men wanting to turn tricks in the bathroom.
Another Larry. What's going on with Larrys recently and gay sex? No, we're not talking about Larry Sinclair. Fucked and sucked Obama in 1999. I wonder if Obama fucked and sucked him too, though. You know what I mean? Who knows, man? Who knows? These are questions that we must ask now. I'm a journalist.
So if you do see a foot inching closer or doing that infamous like tapping, which for those of you who need a translation means I'm looking for or am ready to give a blowy.
Looks like we hit a good lead today, Charlie. With every tap, he moved his foot closer to mine. Just like I'd learned at the academy, I moved my foot up and down slow, like a mating routine, and I was luring him in. I then caught a glimpse of his gold wedding band on his ring finger. You're telling me Craig's a married man, trying to get some bathroom action in a downtown airport in Minneapolis? I immediately thought about his kids, his wife, his traditional family values, and by then I had had it. So I showed Craig my police badge and pointed towards the exit. Craig responded, "No!" Without causing a scene, I threw on the cuffs and escorted Craig out of that bathroom. What a way to end the week. Craig kept asking me what was gonna happen, like a 5-year-old boy whining to his mama about his missing Pokemon cards. So I told him, "You're under arrest." I brought Craig down to the station and told him to get cozy and hand me over his ID. Instead, with a shit-eating grin, he handed me his United States Senator business card and asked me, what did I think about that? I tossed his card to the ground and told him his money was no good here because no one plays me for a sucker and gets away with it. He then handed me his driver's license. Guess I'll be working late tonight. Now, after being arrested in a sting operation, fingerprinted, and even posing for mugshots with his American flag pin on his suit, Senator Larry Craig would quietly plead guilty to lewd and disorderly conduct for some of that, same style action, you know what I mean. Now, he would admit to it. He signed the guilty plea on the dotted line, just like Willy Wonka, and then told nobody about it. Not his wife, not his kids, not even his constituents. Now, Senator Craig had gotten away with this. He had narrowly avoided a career-ending scandal. Or so we thought.
Today, a Washington, D.C. political newspaper broke the story that Senator Craig was arrested in June in a Minneapolis airport bathroom for lewd conduct.
Roll Call magazine broke the story a month later about his arrest, and the truth would come out to set Larry Craig free. Because who really was Larry Craig, the Republican senator? Yeah, he was in that barbershop quartet called the Singing Senators, where he sang lead vocals with 4 other Republican senators. That's real.
My heart's on fire.
Dude, everybody cherish and celebrate Clivent right now. Everybody celebrate Clivent for being the best. You, sir, win Marxist-Leninist of the Day award, okay? You did it. You are liberating the international workers of the world. Thank you for coming in here in the one brief moment where I was talking about Senator Dicksuck over here, who literally was like an openly anti-gay senator in the George W. Bush years, okay? But you bravely came in here and said, why are we talking about this guy? Why don't we talk about what's really affecting the working class? Affecting the working class. Not even affecting the working class.
He also sat on the board of the NRA.
As many of you know, I have been a life member and on the National Board of Directors of the National Rifle Association since 1982.
But the reality was that Craig was just a massive hypocrite.
And we won't let the Venezuelas or the Nigerias or the Saudi Arabias or the Irans jerk us around by the gas nozzle.
He had a long, extensive, girthy, thick, wide history of voting for anti-gay policies. For example, he voted in the military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, which, don't ask me about it, because I'm not going to tell you.
Policy was criticized for forcing military personnel into secrecy and for falling short of total acceptance of their ability and right to serve in the military.
He also voted to ban same-sex marriages, unions, and partnerships. This part I think is messed up. He even voted yes on a bill that wouldn't allow hate crimes to cover sexual orientation. So being caught with your pants down, cruising for men in an airport bathroom.
Cruising is what two men do in a public place to initiate sex. It's completely anonymous. Rarely would a name be changed.
While you advocate for traditional family values, it was a bit awkward for him. So left with no options, Larry Craig would come out and deny everything, with his wife at his side, mind you. Craig would open up his public denial with no Freudian slip by saying, "Thank you for coming out today."
Thank you all very much for coming out today.
Which I think is funny. Maybe you don't, maybe I do, I don't know.
I did nothing wrong and I regret the decision to plead guilty. While I was not involved in any inappropriate conduct at the Minneapolis airport, I am not gay. I never have been gay because I am not gay. I love my wife, my family.
So the Minneapolis police, they weren't too happy about Craig's public denial because this would contradict that plea agreement he had signed when he got arrested, which that document states the court will not accept a plea from anyone who believes they're innocent. So to counter Craig's denial and set the story straight, the police interrogation recording was released to the public. And it's pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. You do anything with your feet? Position them? I don't know. I don't know at the time. I'm a fairly wide guy. I understand. I tend to spread my legs when I lower my pants so they won't slide. Okay. Did I slide them too close to yours? I looked down once your foot was close to mine. Yes. Did we bump? You said so. I don't recall that, but apparently we were close. Well, your foot did touch mine on my side of the stall. All right.
Now Craig claimed that his foot came into contact, or may have made contact with this undercover officer because he was a quote-unquote pretty wide guy. A comment that would haunt him for the rest of his life as Larry Wide Stance Craig. Now maybe you're thinking to yourself, maybe he did have a wide stance. He was a big guy. Maybe this cop who arrested him was out to make a quota. Maybe you believe Larry Craig is innocent. What if I told you that this wasn't the first time Craig was caught in a sticky situation? Craig has been denying he's been gay since 1982. 1982. Two 17-year-old boys from the Congressional Pages program, it's like an intern program for high school kids, make allegations of sexual abuse from the older members of Congress with the younger interns. Now, the FBI would step in to investigate these serious claims, and they speculated that it involved up to 15 members of Congress.
If you could put a number on the number of congressional employees that you may have direct knowledge of involvement in illicit activity, how many would that be?
Direct knowledge, 15 to 20.
Though
the Republican Party surely still doesn't have plenty of closeted homosexual men who regularly sexually assault their fucking male staffers. Obviously, that's not the case. Surely. Did I mention that Dennis Hastert still is the record holder for longest running Speaker of the House? Who also was, arrested for pedophilia? That's not even like the closeted gay part. That's just like he was a prolific pedophile. I was also talking about Matt Schlapp.
These people were not named publicly. So here's a little tip. Generally, it's best to avoid making public denials about accusations, especially when the person that they are accusing is unnamed. But apparently Larry Craig never got that message, because he was the only congressman to issue a public denial.
Persons who are unmarried, as I am, by choice or by circumstance, have always been the subject of innuendos, gossip, and false accusations.
Now, there was only one problem. Those two boys whose tales of sexual abuse set off FBI investigations and Senate Ethics Committee hearings, a year later, had admitted to making up the entire story.
An FBI spokesman said today that so far the Bureau has not been able to corroborate charges that congressional pages have been pressured into sexual activity with members of Congress. And the spokesman said it's not a widespread, organized problem.
So Craig had denied something that no one had even accused him of that didn't even happen at all. Okay, now this clip is funny. In the 1990s, Bill Clinton was getting berated for the Monica Lewinsky scandal. So Larry Craig would go on air and say this about President Clinton.
Bad boy, Bill Clinton, you're a naughty boy. The American people already know that Bill Clinton is a bad boy, a naughty boy.
Sounds to me like someone likes to be called a naughty boy. But here's one of the craziest parts. So 1 month before he was arrested in that bathroom for cruising for men, the Idaho Statesman newspaper, the state that he was a senator of, was doing a 5-month investigation into over 300 accusations of Larry Craig having liaisons with other men. Some is going far back as 1967. But it gets even crazier. They'd even interviewed Larry Craig and his wife about all of these allegations 3 weeks before he was arrested. Oh my God, his wife. I feel bad for his wife. Now, one of the most credible accusations was a donor who had close ties to the Republican Party, and he said that he had witnessed Larry Craig with multiple unnamed men doing things I can't say here at the Union Station men's bathroom, which, if you didn't know, is quite the hotspot for cruising. And also, if you didn't know, Union Station is a few blocks away from the Senate. Now, of course, when asked about this, Craig would just openly deny it. He said, "I am not gay. I've never been in a restroom in Union Station having sex with anybody."
It's so funny because, like, if he wasn't an anti-gay senator and, like, he advocated for, he advocated for gay people living their lives freely, he could have maybe pushed for legislation that didn't criminalize a lot of his activity, or rather, didn't have to do this shit in public.
I am not gay, and I never have been. Now, another man said that Craig had cruised him at an REI store in Boise, Idaho in 1994. Craig responded to this allegation, saying, "I've been in this business 27 years in the public eye. I don't go around hitting on men, and by golly if I did, I wouldn't do it in Boise, Idaho." Out of all the things you could say, why would you say that? I wouldn't do it in Boise, Idaho. Okay, dude. So with Larry Wide Stance Craig gaining national and even worldwide attention, he was just the laughingstock of the town in 2007. Late night comedians are ripping him apart.
So, sir, are you really are serious about keeping your seat in the Senate?
Oh, absolutely. I still feel that I can be of service to the men and men of Idaho.
If you're interested in applying for an intern position with Senator Larry Craig, here is the official application announcement.
Be proficient in Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint. Have a distinguished brow, firm-set jaw, strong but knowing hands.
I think it should be called My Wide Stance.
My Wide Stance. And even Hassan's uncle, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, ripped...
The fuck? We never even watched this video. God damn. I love that he said Hassan's uncle.
Larry Craig apart.
Now, Larry Craig says, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. The playing the footsies? I just have a wide stance in the bathroom." Wide stance Larry Craig.
He was Wide Stance Larry. And all of this scandal really came at a bad time for Larry Craig because he was up for re-election soon. So when you're getting hit from the left for being a hypocrite, you're getting hit from the right for not living his true traditional family values. I mean, Mitch McConnell even called his acts unforgivable. Imagine Mitch McConnell calling you unforgivable. It's gotta hurt really bad. So on September 1st, Craig would announce to the public that he was gonna resign from the Senate a month later on September 30th. You know, with sadness and regret and for the goodness of the American people. And everyone was clapping.
You've moved beyond Nepo Baby to Nepo Man. I've moved beyond Nepo Baby so hard that Jank is now a Nepo Baby. Thank you, Vince, thank you, Vincent Vintage. For those of you who don't know, this is how an anti-gay senator was caught sleeping with 94 men for finally changing the dynamic.
Clapping. Everyone's like, cool, you're gonna resign. But our story isn't over, because just 3 days later, Craig had a change of heart. He actually withdrew his resignation and pledged to the American people that if he could get his conviction overturned, he wouldn't resign. I mean, this guy had no shame. So the day he made this pledge to the American people, he had an army of attorneys filed a motion to withdraw that guilty plea that he had signed. Which also, mind you, it is near impossible to get a guilty plea overturned in the United States.
Idaho Senator Larry Craig looking to reverse his guilty plea in an airport bathroom sex sting.
Craig wants his sexting guilty plea thrown out.
He'd promised to step down. Now he's reversing course. Senator Craig is refusing to step down.
He's changed his mind about stepping down.
But with a team of $500 hour attorneys and the senator's political pull, for sure, they can get this guilty plea overturned. I mean, that's what America's all about, baby. Get this thing overturned.
Idaho Senator Larry Craig has lost his latest attempt to withdraw his guilty plea following a men's room sex sting at the Minneapolis airport.
It's funny because, like, every time he brings it up, it just gets more people to know about it. He just keeps trying to, like, bury it, and it gets unburied every time.
The guilty plea was still upheld. After spending $213,000 on attorneys and PR people within a month, he was still guilty of lewd conduct in that airport bathroom. Now, Larry Craig said he was a man of his word, traditional values, that he was going to resign for the good of the people if he didn't get this conviction overturned. So would he resign from the Senate? Of course not. He would serve out the rest of his 15 months left in his term and retired on January 3rd, 2009.
Thank you very much.
And so Senator Larry Craig goes down.
But Craig's comedy of errors doesn't end there.
7 investigates found the former congressman was still spending campaign cash after his public service had ended.
Because a couple of years later, Craig was investigated and sued from the Federal Election Commission for illegally using campaign funds to pay for his $213,000 attorney bill that couldn't even fight off his guilty plea, and was told he had to pay it back because it was an ethics thing, which is one of the rare cases.
It's just like a quadruple Streisand. This man has been self-reporting nonstop, dude.
I've seen where someone actually gets penalized for some missing campaign money. Now, you may be asking yourself, what's Craig up to these days? He just couldn't leave Washington. He loved it too much. So today, he is a lobbyist for the lumber industry, where he advocates for the destruction of forests and Mr. Beast team trees all across the United States. And it's really the perfect job for any disgraced politician. Now, this story is ironic. The whole time he was copping a feel, he was actually feeling a cop. But in all seriousness, let's talk about the one lesson to take away. Whether you think he's guilty or not, talk to a lawyer. Never sign a guilty plea without talking to an attorney. He should have never signed that. Now, I'm not making fun of Craig for being gay or closeted, or maybe he's bisexual. It's more of a...
For the record, he didn't just tap his foot. He put his whole ass hand underneath the motherfucking stall. So, beyond the 3 other instances where he, like, either straight up said some sussy shit. So, you know, he was fucked. Well, not that time with the cop, but fucked in every other instance, I think.
Hypocrisy of his morals. And I found this quote from an openly gay member of Congress that sums up Craig's situation nicely. You have a right to privacy, but not hypocrisy. During the period that I was closeted for 7 years, I was always a gay rights supporter. It's a violation of principles to vote one way and act another. Now, before you leave, if you want to support me and get more content like this, go to my Patreon. It is banger.